What's happening, guys? So I realize that there's quite a few people who comment on my videos where college doesn't interest them, or the only degrees that do interest them are the ones that will probably lead to them not being able to get a job. Well, I'm here to tell you that you're going to be totally fine. There's a lot of options out there that are really amazing that aren't going to take that much time. Some don't take any time at all. They don't require any schooling. Some require like 2 years of schooling. Maybe you have to get some kind of certification. And then the most important thing is to never forget to smash the living daylights out of the like button.
Smash.
Because it does really help with the algorithm a lot, so thank you very much for doing that. And I already knew quite a bit about this before making the video, but after doing a ton of research, I found some really good ones, and I was just amazed, so you're really in for a treat. Now, studies have shown that your happiness doesn't really increase much above about $75,000 a year, somewhere around there. And so all of these careers are ones where the average is $75,000 or more. And after showing you the list, I'm also going to reveal the best resources that I know of, because a lot of these jobs are actually quite niche, they're difficult to find, and you need certain resources in order to even find them in the first place. So with that being said, let's jump right in and start off the list with number 10, which is going to be a nuclear technician. So nuclear technicians basically just assist nuclear engineers as well as physicists and anything related to nuclear energy. Now, I know a lot of people are afraid of nuclear energy. No nukes! No nukes! And several other jobs on this list are going to be related to that, to be honest with you, but you really shouldn't be afraid of it at all. Evidence over the last 6 decades of using nuclear energy shows that there's almost no risk whatsoever in something like Chernobyl happening again.
Never forget this day.
Now, this is a great career path because it only really requires 2 years of schooling, and you can make over $79,000 a year median. Now, right now, there's only about 7,600 jobs available out there, and it's only expected to grow at -4% job outlook in the next 10 years, which is bad. That's like absolutely horrible because the average is 4 to 7%. But I really do see this one making a comeback because I see more and more countries adopting nuclear energy because it's just incredibly efficient. So for those reasons, I left it at number 10, but it's still a really solid choice overall. Number 9 is going to be dental hygienist. Now, I'm not going to include the traditional trades jobs like plumber, HVAC, anything like that, just because I made another list for those, but this one isn't really a traditional job because it doesn't really require that much muscle or, physical capability. And because of that, it's also not very tough on your body like some of the trades jobs can be. Now, as a dental hygienist, you're going to be assisting dentists and doing things that they can do, but there's things that they probably shouldn't be doing. Things that are pretty easy, like dental cleanings or preventative care. Now, dental hygienists get paid about $75,000 a year right now, which is really solid, and they're expected to grow at about 11% in the next decade, which is much higher than the average 4 to 7%. There's also currently 219,000 jobs out there, which is quite a bit, and it's growing really fast, which means there's going to be even more in the future. This means that it doesn't really matter where you live. You can live in your dream city if you want to. You can live in your hometown if you want to live with your family or something like that. You're pretty much always going to be able to find a job. You don't have to move out to an oil rig in the middle of the ocean just to make a living. Now, it does require 2 years of schooling, which is why it isn't higher on the list, but this is still a very solid option. Number 8 on the list is going to be air traffic controllers. And they're basically the guys up in those towers at the airports that direct all the flights. Now, this is one of those jobs that's extremely stressful. It's very high skill. You have to have the clutch gene, basically, because you're going to be directing airplanes, and if you mess up,
Prepare for a really bad landing!
the airplanes could literally run into each other, so it's an extremely important job. And it pays extremely well on average, about $124,000 a year. So you might be wondering why this isn't ranked higher on the list. Well, it's only expected to grow about 1% in the next decade. There's only about 24,300 job openings right now. And on top of that, it does require 2 years of schooling. But overall, it's still a very solid option. Any of the ones that make it onto this top 10 list are still pretty good when you compare them to all of the other jobs in the world. Number 7 is going to be a nuclear medicine technologist. Oh no, another one that has the word nuclear in it.
I think you scared me straight.
It's okay. This one is perfectly safe as well. Now, this is another one that requires 2 years of schooling, but it pays a really nice $76,800 or so dollars a year median salary. There's about 19,300 spots open, and the expected growth rate is a very solid 7%. Now you might be wondering, Shane, what the hell does a nuclear technologist do?
I'm gonna try to explain this to you.
Well, they generally help to prepare and administer radioactive drugs that help doctors make extremely accurate images of the inside of a body. And this is a really good one if you're interested in medicine, but you don't necessarily want to get a 4 or 6 year degree. Number 6 is another radiation related career, and it's going to be radiation therapist. This is another one that's going to require 2 years in order to get the degree for it. As a radiation therapist, you help with the fight against cancer by helping to administer radiation treatment. Now this is a tough one to get into because you're going to be around terminally ill, sick patients all day long, and that can be really difficult on you emotionally, so it does take a certain type of person to do this job. But overall, you are really helping people out. You're doing a huge service to society, and not that many people can do a job like this, so if you can do it, you will be able to help a lot of people out. Now it does pay about $82,000 a year, which is extremely solid for a 2-year degree. That's one of the best ones on the list. There's 18,700 positions open right now, and then on top of that, it has a 9% growth rate in the next 10 years, which is very, very solid. Number 5 on the list is going to be power plant operators, distributors, and dispatchers. Now this is the first one on the list where you don't have to do any schooling whatsoever. All you need is a high school diploma or a GED. Now, basically what they do is they control the systems that generate as well as distribute electric power. Now, this one pays extremely well for one that you can get into right out of high school, over 83,000 median per year. Now, the number of job openings right now is about 53,000, which is pretty solid overall, but it has one really bad downside, and that is there's a negative 6% expected growth rate in the next 10 years. That's probably one of the worst ones on the list. But this is kind of a trend with jobs that don't require a lot of education, like the ones that you can get into without going to any school whatsoever. You see this negative growth rate on a lot of them, and they become saturated very quickly just because the barrier to entry is so low. So you might have to know somebody to get into this one. You also will have to do a really good job in order to keep your job. And so for that reason, that's why I didn't put it higher on the list, but it's still a really solid option for the right person. Number 4 on this list is going to be web developers. Now, this is one of my favorite on the entire list, and what they do in a nutshell is they design and create websites. Now, technically, the median on this one is about $69,000, $70,000 a year, but give me one moment before you get mad at me. I know I said that all of them were above 75,000, but here's the thing about this one. There's so many different specialties that you can get into when it comes to web development. You can do it on a very basic level where you're not going to be making nearly as much, but there are many jobs available out there that are making way more than $75,000 a year. And on top of that, there's tons of bonuses and incentives and stock options for a lot of the companies out there that offer jobs for web developers. And so even if you are only making $69,000 a year base, chances are you're going to get up over $75,000